Hey everybody, Zach here from Primrose Productions Music. Today I want to talk to you about what is currently and probably will be forever my favorite plugin. It is the SSL Channel from Waves. Now, this plugin has been around a while. There have been a ton of videos on it in the past, and I only just recently got it because for a long time it was like the bundle was pretty expensive. It was like $400 for the Waves SSL 4000 bundle, and I just couldn't afford it at the time. But they put it on sale recently. I think it's like $130 right now, so I would really encourage you to go get it because it not only comes with this, but it comes with 3 other awesome plugins. So go check those out. But anyway, yeah, this is my favorite plugin right now, and I'm going to show you why. It literally works really, really well on everything. All right, let's see. Here's a mix by the Olsen Brothers Band. I just finished up for them the other day. I'm just going to play you a clip of it real quick.
Don't you think it's time for a reason? Don't you think it's time? And haven't you had enough of the treason? Don't you think it's time?
So yeah, this plugin is literally on almost everything in this track. So let's just go through the great uses for this plugin. Let's start with the kick. So we have a kick in mic, which is a AKG D112, and a sub kick that was homemade on the kick drum. And so we have those both routed to the kick bus. The only processing prior to the bus is a low pass at 80 hertz on the sub kick. So let's open up the SS channel on the kick. So let's hear what the kick sounds like without the SSL channel. Would probably help if I got to a point in the song where the kick's playing, huh? Let's go to the verse. See, it doesn't sound that great, but as soon as we kick this thing on, still a little boomy and ringy, but in this kind of a mix it works because it's kind of a softer, more open piece. But here, let's just go over what we did here. So we have a 4.5 dB boost at 8K. We took out 15 dB of 800. You'll see I do that a lot in the drums, especially the kick and the toms. Not so much on the snare, but kick and the toms I take out 800 hertz a lot. All right, then we're also taking out 15 dB of 300, and then I had at one point boosted down here at 94, and then I ended up taking it out, so that's irrelevant right now. And then we have some compression going on, hitting around 6 dB of compression. We got a 3-to-1 ratio. Fast attack, which is not usual for drums. Normally we do a slow attack with drums, but because this is such a soft piece, I wanted to kind of clamp down on the kick. I'll show you. Let's switch this back and forth. Right. So this is the fast attack, and I'll switch it to slow attack. So if we were doing metal or rock or anything heavier, then the slow attack would be better. You heard how much punch came back into the kick when we did that. But for these purposes, we're doing a fast attack on the kick. And like I said, about 6 dB of gain reduction. And we have a reasonably fast release. Not super fast, but it's reasonably fast. All right, let's see what else we use this baby for. Snare. So for snare, we have snare top and snare bottom going into a snare bus. The only processing before the bus is a gate on the snare bottom because there was a lot of kick bleed in this one, which is weird because on the same drum day with the same setup, we didn't have a lot of bleed in the other tracks we did. But for some reason, this track, there was a lot of bleed into the snare bottom mic, probably because I had to crank the gain on it because he was hitting the snare pretty quietly for a quiet track. But anyway, let's check out what we're doing here. So here we got a high pass at 81. We have actually a low pass at 14K. We are doing about 7.5 dB boost at 6.6K, and that's a shelf. We're also taking out a little over 5 dB of 1.3K with a reasonably narrow bandwidth. All right, and then we got 6 dB gain reduction at about 400. I take out 400 out of snares a lot. That's just that weird flat sounding part of the snare that I don't like. And then we're also boosting down here. We're using a bell instead of a shelf. Boosting about 6 dB at a little over 200K. So 200, not 200K, just 200 hertz, excuse me. So we're boosting about 6 dB at 214 hertz. Okay, let's hear, and let's real quick see how much gain reduction we got. We got about a 3-to-1 ratio. Doing a fast attack again, which again, normally we would do a slow attack for drums, but because this is a softer song, we really wanted to clamp down on things fast. So let's see how much gain reduction. Oh, wow, we're actually getting pretty much no gain reduction on there, which means that it's probably giving it a reasonable volume boost, but it's still not hitting hard enough for the compressor to be even kicked on. I totally forgot about that. But yeah, like I said, it was a really light snare. But anyway, let's hear what happens with and without this EQ. So let's take the EQ out. I mean, he's still got a reasonable amount of bleed in this mic because, again, as you can hear, he was playing really quietly. But you hear, just with these EQ moves, how much pop it adds. And for the hell of it, let's just turn the compression section on and off to see what that sounds like. Yeah, so even though we're not really seeing much gain reduction, it is adding a little bit of snap to things. So that's why I left it in. All right, toms. We're doing very, very similar processing on all the toms, but we are still using the channel. Let me find a part with some tom hits. This will do. This run right here. And it sounds weird out of the mix because of what the gate's doing. I could probably gate these a little bit better. But in the mix, it sounded fine. So I'm not going to worry about it. But anyway, let's listen to that first tom. And let's turn. It still doesn't sound that great, but with softer toms, I could have sample replaced them, but it's such a soft, laid-back song that I didn't want to. So let's listen to just how it sounds without that on. See, it sounds way worse without that. So let's hear what it sounds like with that back on. All right, so real quick, what we're doing here, we're high passing at about 100. This is a 12-inch tom. We're doing almost a 5 dB boost at 8K. That's a shelf. We're doing about a 6 dB boost at about 4K, 4.12K. We're, again, cutting it right around 800. We're at 830 hertz right now. We're taking out 15 dB of that with a pretty narrow Q, and we're giving a 3 dB boost to about 120. All right, and then let's see how much gain reduction there is. So we're only getting 3 dB of gain reduction. If we really wanted to clamp down on this, we could probably get it to sound even a little better, but in the laid-back song, it kind of worked. So, yeah, about a 3-to-1 ratio again. This time we are doing a slow attack, and we're doing a really fast release. All right, next tom, very similar. This is a 14-inch tom. Still doesn't sound amazing. I probably could have used an extra moon gel on there, but we did what we could with what we had. So, again, we got a high pass this time at 78. We're doing probably about 4 dB, almost 5 actually, 4.7 dB at 8K. Actually, I think I might have just copied this over. This is looking... Yeah, I think I pretty much copied this over. The only thing I changed was where the high pass was, so I moved that down to 78, and I moved the little boost in the low end down to 98. And we're getting way more gain reduction. We're peaking at about 10 dB of gain reduction here. Fast attack this time. Pretty fast release. 3-to-1 ratio. All right, let's move on to the last tom. Still doesn't sound amazing, but again, working with what we had. Let's turn this off, see what it sounded like. So much better compared to what it was. So again, it looks like we kept pretty much everything the same, except we actually... Okay, so we moved this one up to 860 hertz. So taking 15 dB out of 860, supposed to 830. These all look about the same. And then we changed the high pass down to 49 hertz, and now we're boosting at 93 hertz. Okay, and how much gain reduction? Only getting about 3 dB of gain reduction. Again, a slow attack this time, reasonably fast release, and again, about a 3-to-1 ratio. So yeah, this is a great plugin for drums, especially in conjunction with other stuff. Anyway, let's hear what those toms sound like in the mix with the overheads mixed in and everything.
Could be a better place. The earth could be a better place.
See, they're really subtle in the background, so I wasn't too worried about getting a pristine tom tone. I could have sample replaced if I needed to, but on a light track like this, I thought it kind of worked the way they were. All right, what else do we have this on? Guitar. Guitar is a big one. So I have 3 different sections of guitar here. These are all acoustic guitars. This is the main rhythm acoustic. The way I usually record acoustic is I have a stereo setup on the front of the guitar, and then I'm also putting a mic on the back of the acoustic body, and then I have a single room mic. So these are 3 iterations of that. This is the main rhythm. This is a little call and response thing that happens with the piano at one point, and this is like the solos. So all of these, so this guitar is routed to this main guitar bus, this is routed to this lead guitar, and this is routed to the solo. And then each of those buses are going into the main guitar bus. So all of those guitars is being what's affected by what's happening here. So they're all being affected by this SSL channel on the guitar bus. So that's the main processing. I will show you that on the main guitar part. And then we also have a couple small additions on the lead guitar and the solo with the SSL channel. So I'll show you those too, but let's start with the main guitar part. We should be able to just start right here. So let's solo that guitar. Now you can see we took away a lot of low end with this, and that's just because we have a piano and a bass guitar. We want to leave the low end open for them. I also boosted a lot of high end, and it sounds kind of tinny and weird on its own, but in the mix it works. It helped it cut through above the piano and the vocals and everything. So anyway, let's go over what we did here. So again, this is affecting all 3 of the guitar sections, but let's see how we started. So first we have a high pass at 205 hertz. All right, and we're also doing a low pass at 15K. That's just to leave the super high end open for the vocal harmonies and any additional little string things and stuff like that. All right, and we're boosting about 3 dB, and this time we're using a bell curve. We're not doing a shelf. So we're boosting about 3 dB at about 10K, which I find I do that a lot on guitars, especially acoustics. I tend to boost around 10K. And sometimes it's a little too high pitched depending on the track, but a lot of times it really just helps the guitar shine through. All right, not doing anything on the high mids, not doing anything on the low mids, and not doing anything on the lows. So really the only thing that this is doing EQ-wise is a 3 dB boost at 10K and a high pass and a low pass. All right, and then let's check the compression. So we're just kissing 3 dBs of gain reduction. Again, here we're doing a fast attack because we want to clamp down on things fast. We're doing a medium release, and again, it's about a 3-to-1 ratio. Especially for light stuff, I rarely go more than a 3-to-1 ratio. It depends. And I also usually tend to put a limiter after, which I actually did in this case. I have a limiter on here after the EQ for the guitar. So that's definitely something to take into account. But again, let's just listen for a second with and without this. So without. And let's hear that in the mix. So without in the mix, and then I'll add it in.
Time for a reason, don't you think it's time? And haven't you had enough of the treason? Don't you think it's time? Don't you think the earth could be a better place? The earth could be a better place. It's in.
See, without this EQ, you almost all but lose the guitar with the piano because it's such a piano-heavy song that we need that in there. So let me just show you this little call and response part real quick. It's the piano and the guitar here. So we're doing a little more here than we are. Again, remember that this is still being processed by the main guitar part because all of these guitars are going through the guitar bus. But this, we just went a little more. So we went a little harder with this filter. We went all the way up to 350 hertz. That's just to cut out as much of the low end as possible because we really want the high end of this part to shine through. All right, the high pass is about the same. All right, so we're doing a very tiny little boost at about we're doing about 2 dB boost at 2.4K, just tiny little boost. All right, and then we're doing about a 4.5 dB boost at 460 hertz. So again, really small things, but listen to the difference. Much more noticeable. So let's go check out the solo 2. There's a good chance that I just copied and pasted the solo EQ over from that part, but let's double check. I forget what I did. All right, so it's a little different. We are high passing at 303 hertz instead of 350. We brought down the low pass a little bit. It's at 15 instead of 15.4K. And we're doing a little more drastic EQ in the rest of this. So we're doing a 3 dB boost. It's a bell, not a shelf, at 3.3K, which is weird because I'm usually trying to cut 3K out of guitars, but it worked here. And then we're doing a almost 5 dB cut at 4.2K, and that's a really narrow bandwidth. All right, then we got almost 4 dB boost at 870 hertz, again narrow, and we got a teeny tiny little 2 dB boost at 313, and again that's a bell curve, not a shelf. All right, and we're doing a much higher ratio of compression here. We're doing a fast attack, a really slow release. All right, we got a 15, almost a 16-to-1 ratio here. And let's see how much gain reduction there is. So we're peaking out at 14 dB of gain reduction on that. So anyway, let's listen to the solo real quick. Let's take this out first, and I'll add it in halfway through. So So you can see when we take this out, the guitar is actually cutting through a lot more, which sometimes is cool, but in this case, I really wanted the solo to just sit and blend into the mix. Like, you want it there, you want it noticeable and present, but you don't want it overpowering, which I feel like when we take this, it is a little overpowering. So we're just taming it a little bit with this and just making it blend in a little more. And again, that's also going through the main guitar bus, so it has the original processing on it as well. All right, 2 more things to show you guys. All right, piano. Let's listen to the main piano part here. I can just pick anywhere in the song pretty much, but so here we aren't doing too much. There's a lot of little moves here. But so first we are high passing at 195 hertz. And the reason for this is we want to give the bass as much room to breathe without taking away too much of the low end of the piano. So we got to make sure the bass cuts through. So that's why we're low passing up to there. Then we're actually doing a a low pass all the way down to 11K. And that's a little drastic. Usually you want the keys to go pretty much all the way to the top, or keys or pads or whatever. You want them to go pretty much all the way to the top. But for this, I felt like I needed to sit back and let the vocal shine through a little bit. All right, now we're doing about 2 dB cut at 3K. That's just a bell curve, not a shelf. All right, we're doing just a 1 dB cut at 800s. And the reason for that was, again, to let the bass shine through. 800 is a frequency I boost a lot in bass. So I just wanted to carve that out of the piano because the bass and the piano tend to fight a lot for frequencies. So I wanted to just let the bass cut through by taking a little bit of that out. Okay, and then we're also taking out about 3.5 dB of exactly 300 hertz. All right, and we're not really compressing at all. So let's hear what this sounds like with and without. Let's solo it. See, it doesn't sound bad without the EQ, but pretty much what we're doing here is making room for the other instruments. Because obviously pianos have a really huge frequency spectrum, so we need to just take little chunks out of it here and there to make sure the other instruments can come through. All right, and I also want to take this opportunity to show you the difference between this EQ and, say, a stock EQ. Because obviously this is, at the end of the day, this is just an EQ. But I feel like there's something about it. It adds some kind of extra sheen to things that some other plugins don't. And that's one of the reasons that I like it so much. So just for an example, I'm going to bring up this EQ. Let's turn these all back on. So just to show you, these are pretty much the same moves that I made on here. And obviously, all EQs are not going to be exactly the same when you put in the exact same parameters, because they all do things a little different. But I just want to get it as close as possible. So we're cutting at 194 hertz, well, 194.9. So this was, I think, at 195. All right, we're cutting at 11.39. This is at 11.4. All right, we're cutting at 301. Okay, this is cutting at 300 exactly because it's a 0.3. I don't get to get any tighter than that. All right, and that's a medium Q. This is kind of a medium Q, a little closer to narrow, but not by much. This is a pretty narrow Q when we're taking out 1 dB of 800, and then this is a pretty narrow Q when we're taking out the 10K, but I can't control the Q on this part of this EQ, so that's a little different. Anyway, let's just listen to these two back to back. So this is with the stock EQ. And then with the SSL. See, I feel like it just does something to it. So let's hear that in the mix. We'll start with a stock EQ and then switch over.
Don't you think let's end all the madness? Don't you think it's time? Don't you think let's end all the madness? Don't you think it's time?
So it's just cutting through a little more. And again, it's just, even though these are pretty much the same moves, it's just adding a little something. I'm not sure what it is, but it just sounds better to me. All right, the last thing we're using it on is our vocal bus. So this is just for the main vocal. So I have the lead vocal right up the middle, and then I have two duplicate vocals of it just panned a little to the sides. All right, so let's check out the processing here. So we're cutting a lot of low end. We're high passing at 248 hertz. We're cutting just a little bit of the top end. We're cutting it out right at 20 because this actually goes up to 21K. All right, now we're doing a shelf of almost 3.5 dB at almost 11K, 10.5K, so 10.67. All right, then we are cutting about 3 dB of 1.5K, and that's a pretty narrow cut. All right, then we're cutting a lot more over here. We're cutting 7 dB out of 2.2K. So really, pretty much between 1.5 and 2.3, we're cutting a lot in that area. I guess it just wasn't sounding good that day in that section. All right, and then we're also taking out almost 5 dB of 281. And we're not doing any compression on here. We're using the CLA 76 plugin from Waze for most of the compression. But anyway, let's just hear what the vocals sound like with and without this on.
Don't you think let's end all the madness? Don't you think it's time? Don't you think the earth could be a better place? The earth could be a better place. It's in the hands of me and you.
Again, the vocals don't sound bad without it. It's just kind of tightening it up, polishing it, making it sound a little more clean in the mix. So yeah, that's everything I used it on in this mix, but I could have also used it on the Harmony bus if I wanted to. I just didn't. But yeah, this is a great plugin, and right now it's on sale in the bundle. The bundle is only $130. So in the bundle, you not only get that, but you also get the SSL comp, which I use on my mix bus almost every time. And it's also great for parallel compression if you want to use it for that. And there's 2 other EQs in there that are also really cool. But I would really recommend you guys go check it out. It's a really cool plugin bundle. It's on sale right now. Like, I would not miss that opportunity if I were you. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys are making a lot of great music right now and you're having trouble getting it out there, especially because we can't play shows at the moment, if you just need help getting your music in front of as many people and doing most of that online without having to actually do any footwork, then I want you to go check out my free guide. I call it Your Rise to Stardom. It covers literally everything you need to get your band from basically no one to the start of a promising music career. You can check that out at my website at primroseproductionsmusic.com/guide. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Leave me a comment. Let me know what your favorite EQ plugin is and why. Thank you guys again. I'll see you in the next video.